And
If I have to,
Man
again.
Monkey is closing.
Again, you know what happened last time Land Monkey closed.
Oh, well, then Bad Cop will close.
You're right.
It's your choice.
Well, welcome, folks. We made it. It's Thursday night. We are in the Northwest, and we've been caching. So let's do a podcast that puts all of that together.
Oh, what the heck. We're all here along with the fans and the listeners and everybody else. Let's do it.
All my fans are electric.
Yeah, I know.
Sounds like fun.
And start recording.
That time. Welcome to Caching in the Northwest. This is the only podcast dedicated to geocaching in the great Pacific Northwest. We will talk about caches and cachers unique to this little corner of the country, so one may be the loneliest number, but there are lonelier caches. It's time to go caching in the Northwest.
And in order to do that, we need to bring in our lonely leaping lemur. Some say snowshoes don't fit monkey feet, but Mrs. Land Monkey says he's all hands. All we know is he's called Land Monkey.
There you go.
Hey, Mrs. Land Monkey says all kinds of stuff, and you should usually believe her. She's definitely the source of truth around here. All right, hey, what's up? You wanted to say something important there. You go right ahead.
I just asked you. I usually trust her. That's all. Carry on.
That's good. Carry on, people. Nothing to see here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to listen. Thanks to you who are already active in the Q&A. We love that. Having a great time. And yes, if you hear music and see dancing, it must be time for Caching in the Northwest. And I see activity in the Q&A, which means it must be time for us to thank you for joining us on this podcast. Thank you to those who are listening to it recorded after the fact. And why don't we just see what kind of glowing response we can get to the next segment?
Well, why not? I just have a warm glow all over about this next segment because it is the glow. That's the geocaching log of the week for those of you that are new to this little part of our podcast. And thanks to Dormore, we have this fun segment. So this week's glow was from the Doe Falls geocache. That's GCGDT0. And it was hidden all the way back in July of 2003. But, get this, it's only been found 36 times since then. That's roughly 3 dozen. I did that in my head. Plus 2 DNFs. It's out in the mountains a ways, but in a gorgeous portion of the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest. So, if you want some scenery, go out and find that, although it might be a rough time of year to go right now. This specific glow comes from IHAM's log when they went searching for it, and he misread the coordinates. See that here, and there will be a huge, long, cryptic link in the show notes that I'm not going to try to read out loud. And it goes on to say they were TTF, which, if you're not familiar with the term, is third to find. It's a new term to me. The log reads, typoed when entering the coordinates, and my sons and I ended up walking past the cache. GPSR shows it further on. How many times have we done that? And then back past it again. Must have been on that other branch of the trail. Let's go back to the Y. And then we realized that some idiot, that would be me, had put in a 3 instead of an 8. Corrected the coordinates, headed back to the cache site. Hadn't seen anyone all morning, and suddenly as we approached the site, we see 2 muggles in a 5-minute span. Found the cache, and just then another muggle goes whizzing down the trail on his bike, followed by his dog. Go figure. Took a Michael card CD, left a signature magnet and a couple of Japanese coins, and signed the log. Container is in very good shape and dry inside. The seal is good enough that we heard the swoosh of the air pressure equalizing when we opened the lid. Thanks for a great hike and a beautiful vista, and signed KK7UZ and Sons. So we assume that his call sign or his geocaching username at the time was his former call sign. He's now AF70, but the time he was KK7UZ and Sons. So thanks for that one.
How very nice. Thank you for that wonderful glow. Now, also here in Caching in the Northwest, we'd love to hear about milestones in interesting caches you have found. So, in that vein, 3 Hams in a Row sent in his log, his glow, if you will, for his 3,000th find.
Nice.
That's quite impressive. So,
Yeah.
So, this find, number 3,000, is called In the Lake, Cyprinus Caprio. The
Carpio.
5... Carpio?
Carpio. It's like a trout in your pants or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, if he got it during the day, is it like Carpio Diem?
Could be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we lost Land Monkey.
Okay, there's a backstory that you're going to have to listen to the after show to know why that's so funny. Anyways.
Okay.
Cyprinus Carpio.
Okay.
So, 3 Ham starts off. These 5 lake caches have been on my radar for almost 3 years and remained the closest unfound caches to my house, just under 3 kilometers away, for a long time. I've tried numerous ways to get watercraft out there, but keep getting stymied. A month ago, Casemon mentioned that he had both a canoe and a kayak and wanted to do these caches. I leapt at the opportunity, as did Geoquan and Hewling. We met today at the rowing pavilion under moderate rain and slipped into the water. Me in the kayak, and the others 3 in Casemon's dog in the canoe. All caches were insta-finds, and we were surprised to be back at the launch just an hour later. It was all very wet, albeit lovely adventure with various waterfowl gliding by and or honking at us. It gets a favorite point for the series. So, there you go.
Just in case you guys didn't know, maybe I can fill in a little bit. That series is actually 5 geocaches placed in the water in Burnaby Lake, and you can only get to them by paddling. So canoeing or kayaking, and or I suppose rafting or swimming with a life jacket if you really feel like it. But it's kind of a Genji lake for that. But it's a neat series. It's been there for years and years and years, and it's a real favorite for cachers out in this area.
All right.
Nice. So congratulations, 3 Hams, on not only getting those nearby caches as smileys, but on find number 3,000.
Yes, congratulations.
And it's extra difficult up there in Canada because everything's always frozen over year-round, right?
Yeah, that too.
Year-round.
Yeah.
Perhaps 1 week in August, maybe, you can get out there. Otherwise, you need a snowmobile. 3 Hams, who we just talked about, also has very sharp ears. He's noticed that Land Monkey has dropped an octave. And Limax, who's very sharp-eyed, has also noticed that Land Monkey has dropped a mustache.
Yes.
That's Murgatroyd.
Believe it or not, those two things are actually related. I came down with a terrible cold/flu something earlier this week, and so yes, I'm almost over it. Good enough to be on the show.
Well, we're glad you're here.
There you go. And it appears that your connection also has a bit of a cold this morning, or this afternoon, Land Monkey.
Oh, okay.
It's choppy at times, but
It's a little choppy.
Rats. All right.
must be the cold.
I think it's the cold, yeah. Well, it's hard for the Googles to handle that deep of a voice.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of extra bandwidth.
You're just overwhelming the Hangouts.
There you go.
Oh, 3 Hams did say he was hoping the lake would freeze so he could just walk out to them. Or perhaps it would dry up in the summer and Land Monkey could drive you out on the lake.
That is an option.
If it freezes over, can you take an ice fishing hut out and drill through the ice to get to the caches?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, B Pendragon says, aren't the Canadian seasons almost winter, winter, still winter, and road construction?
Yeah, I think that's Montana as well.
I was going to say, that's pretty much Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio just limited to 2, winter and road construction. Okay. Oh, we have classical accompaniment. So, my friends,
Yes.
Did you get out and do any geocaching this week?
I can neither confirm nor deny that I was out geocaching this week. Actually, I did very little geocaching this week, and it doesn't really matter because whatever I do is always overshadowed by the Land Monkey's fantabulous adventures. So let's just skip on to them.
Oh man! All right. Well, first of all, sorry about the classical music in the background. I have to start now that I've moved my studio out into the rec room. I have to actually remember to do a walk around before the show and remove things like cell phones, etc., from the area before the show starts. Anyways, all that to say, yes, actually, we did do a little geocaching. This past weekend, we went down to the Ferndale area, and that's, for those who may not know where that is, that's just north of Bellingham in Washington State. We picked up a relatively new GeoArt series of 25 puzzle caches themed on the X-Men, plus a few extra caches that while we were in the area. And aside from getting a nudge from a listener and a recent finder of 3,000 caches to help us solve the last two we were stuck on, we also had the opportunity to make use of the GSAC macro Cache Route 3 to plot our route, and it worked perfectly. So in an upcoming episode, we are going to be talking about route planning tools, so stay tuned for that, but that worked really well.
Very cool.
How about you, Bad Cop?
Well, it seems odd to actually go limit the number of caches I find, but I did go out this week and find a cache for my 366-day challenge, and actually Wits End took me out. He goes, you need to leave the office for a bit. It's been one of those weeks,
You can tell sometimes when your coworker has just reached a breaking point. You say, come on, we are leaving the building for a while.
Okay, if we have to, I guess. But it's nice to see some new caches published in the area. I was starting to get a little worried about, some finishing up. I've got 30 plus finds. It's not that many, but definitely it's getting harder to do during the lunch hour. The drive's just starting to push that. So there are some new caches popping up in the area that I think are going to get me through this little drought.
Nice.
So that's always nice to know. So thank you, fellow geocachers, for placing new caches. I know you've done it just for me. Perhaps somebody else also would go out and find these caches that you placed.
One can only hope. And the way the Land Monkeys are making good use of their Nexus cards, they may be down here soon, too.
He's expanding his territory to, find geocaches to
well, that's
go
a
and log.
necessity.
Thanks for a long day.
Yeah, well. All right, well, let's get down to business. It's a quarter after here, and, we are coming up on a holiday here very soon. It's Valentine's Day coming up. And in honor of Valentine's Day, or in the spirit of Valentine's Day, we're talking about lonely cachers. Those cachers that haven't had a date in a long time, haven't been out maybe to dinner or anything. You could take me out sometime if you'd like. I'll go caching with you. It's really okay. Oh, wait.
I think
Sorry.
you might put an R in somewhere where there wasn't actually.
Yeah, okay.
You might want to check on that.
Let me back
He's a
up just a little
pirate.
bit. Tonight we're talking about lonely caches. Strike the lonely cachers. We couldn't care less about them.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's an entirely different subject. Tonight we're talking about lonely caches. These are lonely caches. Caches that haven't been found. They also haven't been picked up in a very long time.
True, that is true. And hey, while there's no official definition, at least none that we could find by the letter of the rule and guidebook for what constitutes a lonely cache, we'll say that it's one that hasn't, as Whitson just shared, it's one that hasn't been found for, let's say, over a year probably qualifies. I'm pretty sure that there are lonely cache challenges that will have varying specific requirements, and doing a little bit of pre-show research, I found a few different lonely cache challenges that ranged from 6 months to 3 years. But we're more interested tonight in how to find lonely caches and people's experiences of finding them. So, for instance, the land monkeys ourselves, we've got an FTF on a cache that was at the summit of a mountain that had been placed just over a year before we got to it. So, I feel that qualifies as a lonely cache. It was also an FTF, which was kind of cool, and it was a pretty awesome feeling, not just the FTF, but to be standing on the top of the mountain to earn it was pretty cool. If anybody's interested in that one, it doesn't have a lot of finds. It may qualify as a lonely cache. I think it was found last summer, the last time it was found. And it's GC3M7D3 in Manning Park.
All right.
Nice. So you don't have a lot of first-to-find hounds that are willing to climb mountains, is what I'm saying.
You know what? I think there's a short list, at least in southwestern British Columbia, that we are on, but I know a couple of the other people who are on that list as well. So, yeah, it's kind of funny to sometimes watch and see who ends up going for them. And but, oh man, we were planning that trip next month.
And as a CO, that's got to be a little discouraging. I've put a cache out, nobody has found it in a year.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're putting, again, now there's different qualifications for how a lonely cache can be created, and we'll get to that a little later, I think, as well. But I think if you're putting it at the top of a mountain, it's not necessarily that discouraging, especially if you put it up late in the season. You got to pretty much know it's not going to be until hiking season that anybody's going to go and try and find it.
That's true. Now, for show prep for this, we started looking, how do you go find lonely caches? So, hold on, I'm looking in the Q&A here, and as Limax says, he thought he could find them using projectgc.com, and that's exactly what I did. I went to project-gc.com and thought, there's got to be an easy way to find lonely caches, because if there's a way to manipulate any geocaching data, project-gc.com is the way to go.
They're pretty good at it.
Yeah, I went there, tools, map-based, there was a lonely cache and not found caches. You select your country, your region. What I was surprised is that doesn't show you caches that haven't been found in a while. It shows you caches that have never been found. So in my county, there is one cache that has not been found. It was placed in the middle of December, and one person went out and said they couldn't find it. So it's out well beyond Elbe, or Elbe, however you pronounce that town. I hear Elbe, but I've also heard Elbe. Anyway, so
say it. There's a lonely cache out there.
There's a lonely cache out that way, and a little mountain climb.
That's cool. I think we've got some other great activity going on in the Q&A, but right before we get to that, I would just want to throw in that I also did a little legwork to see if there's any simple way through geocaching.com to identify and find lonely caches. And I use the new search tool as well as the classic search tool, as they call it. I didn't come up with anything. However, anyone in the Q&A or any of our listeners who have ideas of how to find lonely caches. Now, and again, there's, trying to broaden the qualification. We know how to find caches that have never been found, and that's great as well. But, how do you find a cache that hasn't been found for a period of time?
Yeah.
That would be a really interesting thing to sort out. But that said, if you know, share it with us, because we obviously don't know where we would have shared it. But over in the Q&A, what do we see in there?
Brylang has he gives a URL for projectgc.com to go look for caches that haven't been found in British Columbia. But he gives more information, and there's 175 geocaches in British Columbia that have never been found. The oldest was hidden July 2nd, 2005.
Wow. That's lonely.
So, gentlemen, that's almost 10 years. We're just a couple months short of 10 years. It's GCQXW0. There's an Earth cache that was created September 21st, 2005 that's never been logged. Land Monkey, what are you doing? Oh, he's leaving right now. Land Monkey just checked his car keys.
I think I know what Earth cache that is, and I also know why it hasn't been found yet.
GCQMXW.
See if it's the one I'm thinking it is. One moment, please.
And Breiling is part of our research department, says there's 77 caches in Washington State that have never been found. So there you go.
Caches that have been found at least once but not been found for a long time is a harder filter to find.
That's much harder to find. And
I know we were just looking at it before the show. We found a night cache not all that long ago. It was in December. And we very nearly just bypassed it because there hadn't been a find log on it in 6 months. In fact, there had been 2 DNFs after that find log, and we thought, well, it hasn't been found in 6 months, and there's 2 DNFs. Let's not even bother. But then we thought better of it, and I'm glad we did.
Well,
we had a good
stubborn
time.
wit's end says, no, I want to go find this.
Well, and I also said, we've got a good group of people here to go do it. It's frustrating anytime you can't find a cache, but to me it's more frustrating when you go up by yourself because and you come up empty. I like it when you go out with the whole group because more eyes really help look out. Really, it helps me. I can just stand around and let Bad Cop do all the work. I mean, we can split up and cover more territory.
I'm really good at finding where the cache isn't hidden.
Yeah.
So
I am.
Sorry, I was going to say on the topic of that Earth cache that hadn't
No,
been
please
found,
go ahead.
one of the reasons that Earth cache has not been found, anybody who's looked at a map of British Columbia, you might notice that all the population is within a reasonable being distance of the U.S. border.
Oh, Land Monkey, you are really breaking up there.
Major Cylon.
Yes.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now?
A little bit better now. Okay. Oh, try that again.
I was going to say, anybody who's looked at a map of British Columbia, you've noticed that the bulk of the population and cities in British Columbia is in a reasonable driving distance of the U.S. border, the 49th parallel. Once you get up above, let's say, the 50th parallel, it gets much, much more sparse. Well, this Earth cache in question is not that far from Alaska. So
so why it's still technically BC.
It's in BC. It's actually it's ways from the northern border of BC, but it's close to the western border with Alaska. It's just in the middle of freaking nowhere.
So you're not going to go there on your lunch hour?
No.
Even if you have called in sick the day before?
Yeah, exactly.
This is all part of your master plan. I know.
Quiet you.
If Land Monkey's boss is listening, he would never do such a thing.
Not at all.
Anyways.
Interesting. So why it is still in British Columbia? It's the British Columbia that no one goes to.
Well, I'm sure people go there. Somebody placed the Earth cache. Well, okay.
But it doesn't mean they had to go there. They could have done all the research on the internet and placed it from their armchair.
We do not condone such actions.
We do not. They're bad people.
I doubt that's true, but you never know. Okay, back to Q&A.
Yes.
IHAM says it is LB.
That's how I've always said it, but
I don't remember how I heard LB. Now, lonely caches. We love lonely caches. Sometimes we found them, sometimes we haven't. But Three Hams has found a lonely cache. Last week and the week before, we asked for feedback. Let us know the lonely caches you have found.
Yeah.
And Three Hams came through. So on the geocache called Rocky 1, that is, I have the log, that is, I don't have the GC code. I will find the GC code. His log says, woohoo, my first lonely cache. Get this. It has been 652 days for this one. Did it in deep snow without snowshoes, just poles on a closed trail. Had to leap from one 5-foot snowbank to another to cross a creek. Thank God for those orange diamond trail markers and GPS, or I'd be eternally lost up there. And he seems to be very generous with this favorite point because this one also gets a favorite point.
Very nice.
So that's GC249MR. Wow.
Okay.
652 days. That's, 2 years.
That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you talk about lonely caches up on mountaintops. As I recall, back during the Geocaching International Film Festival, there was a short film about a lonely cache, and actually turned out they had to replace it. But I don't remember. Do you remember how long that one had been since it had been found?
I want to say it was the oldest one at the time. So,
I
several
believe you can
years.
measure it in years. That's all I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lonely caches, mountaintops, they can also be puzzle caches or caches where the coordinates are not obvious, which I think is kind of synonymous with puzzle caches. But, if it's difficult, if it's hard to solve, or people just don't like those kind of puzzles, I don't know. It might take people a long time, or might get glossed over a lot on people looking to make quick lunchtime runs to fill in their calendar. So that could add to the. I might be referring to you. You never. I wasn't pointing fingers, but thank you for pointing your own fingers. That could make caches lonely, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. So, lonely caches, okay, so we've determined long hikes. It may be the top of a mountain. It may be, out in the middle of nowhere. But, the longer the hike, the less finds that are going to happen,
Yeah.
right? It could be it requires special equipment, such as a canoe or climbing equipment. So it could be a terrain 5 type of cache that
Yeah.
not a lot of people have that equipment available to them.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I think, sorry, I might have tuned out for a moment. Where I goes, did you bring that up? That's another.
Not yet. Where it goes?
Because it's
IHAM
special equipment.
Exactly. IHAM in the chat room says puzzle caches are more prone to be lonely caches. And yes, the more difficult the puzzle cache, the harder it is to solve, and thus the fewer finds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do either of you have a puzzle cache that you own?
Yes.
Yeah, I had one as well, and I noticed, I would get. Say again?
I don't think mine's active. I was trying to think I did, but I don't think it's active anymore.
Yeah, no, mine didn't get found enough, and the little hole I hit it in the tree grew. The tree grew around the cache because it wasn't found enough. But I would get 20 finds on a normal cache compared to 1 find on a puzzle. So puzzle caches just don't get found as much, and as a result, they can be lonely caches. Around here, we tend to have not many, but a few scuba caches.
Yeah.
Where scuba gear is required. Same idea, it takes special equipment. So not a lot of those get found.
Yeah. NorthWest, a lot of the folks either listening to this podcast or hosting it all live in areas very proximate to the ocean. So yes, definitely there's scuba caches around. One of the things I had learned, though, is some of the road cache series that are placed in Nevada and such are actually given the scuba cache attribute as a way of making them easier to select. So sometimes that can be a misnomer, but a true scuba cache is hard to find.
True.
I've never found one. Of course, I've never been scuba diving, so that pretty much limits that.
I find webcams can be lonely caches because even though people have smartphones, some of the older webcams require flash, and the smartphones don't handle that, so you can't always get them that way.
Yeah, we ran into that recently as well.
Well, and since they're a grandfathered category, at least on geocaching.com, there aren't any new webcam caches coming out.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Well, we have more feedback.
Tons of feedback.
Yeah, there's a lot of feedback. I'm actually sorting through it, trying to figure out what I want to talk about. Limax says, well, let's start with one of the earlier ones he had mentioned. I've lost it. Talking about Pink Jean. There. No, now somebody else popped in. There we go. One of the caches I found during the road trip had not been found for 3 years. It's called Pink Jean. That's GCXVM7. And he says its sister. Sorry, I thought I was.
Wow, 3 years. That's pretty good.
3 years.
Good job, Lima.
There's a sibling of Green Jean.
There you go. Pink
found
Jeans.
quite often.
Yeah.
That's EXVJR. And a sister cache, Blue Jean, hasn't been found in less than 2 years when he found it.
Wow. They're really going after some of those. Awesome.
Yeah.
And Blue Jean is GCXVKH.
Three Ham says the lonely cache I found near the top of Mount Seymour, where I also shared that snowshoe video with you guys in December. And I remember that snowshoe video.
That was great.
That was impressive, yes. Snowshoeing is something I've got to get done this year.
Pitter patter.
Yeah.
BMARS 7391 has stolen a bit of our thunder. But that shows, we have a very educated and intelligent listener base. He says lonelycache.com is a good source of lonely caches in Utah and a few other states. So, should we talk a bit about lonelycache.com?
Sure. Well, we've only recently come across it when we were doing the research for this show, unless you guys had seen it before I had.
No.
I had.
As Mars says, lonelycache.com. It seems like a website, if I'm not mistaken, where
Land Monkey, you're breaking up again.
Oh, okay. How about now?
A little bit better now.
All right. Lonelycache.com, website where there are point values attributed to caches that have not been found at all or are found rarely. And they list them right on the main page there. You can kind of go through there, and there's a forum, etc. And it seems like a neat idea. What I'm curious about, and I should probably just read through their pages, how they identify the lonely caches.
Good question.
That's a tough one, and I know they're going not found up till a point, but you've got to determine, is it a year, is it more than a year, to determine what a lonely cache is. So lonely caches, I like the idea. I like finding things that haven't been found in a while. That doesn't help if you're working on a streak, because obviously if they haven't been found for a while, there's a chance that they're not there. But it's kind of the risk you take.
Yeah. Freiling follows up on, we were talking about webcam caches, and he said that Flash-based webcam caches won't be long for this world, with all the major web browsers likely to drop all support for that platform in the near future. Mm-hmm. And while that's probably true, I think there's still going to be stubborn web cache owners that refuse to upgrade regardless of the fact that nobody can connect and look at it. Just saying.
You just have to increase the difficulty.
Yes, yeah.
I've got a laptop from 1972. Okay, that might be a stretch. 92. That still works. The B Pendragon says the webcam cache at UW Tacoma is decidedly not a lonely cache. No, that one's done quite often.
Quite often.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, the Land Monkeys just recently added that to their list of finds.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bad Cop, for your help with that.
That was a good one.
Oh, I did help you, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Nice multi down there too in UW Tacoma area.
Mm-hmm.
Bridge of Glass area.
Yes, that's such a neat area to explore.
Yeah, the bridge with all the Walmart bags on the poles. IHAM says he has a traditional ammo can cache in a suburban park. That seems fairly routine. And it has been found in 6 months. And it was 9 months between that find and the previous find.
Wow.
Coincidentally, it was GCJ9XH, which was featured in last week's Glow.
There
you go.
How about that? So there you go. A traditional ammo can in a suburban park. You would think that would be, highly sought after.
You would.
Unless all the local cachers have found it.
Oh, but wouldn't you want to go back to put travel bugs in it?
Not if it hasn't been found very recently.
It's a catch-22.
I don't want to put my travel bugs in something that doesn't get found very frequently, right?
That's true.
Or is that a catch-22?
Yeah.
Oh, Wet Coaster adds, when I was in Edmonton, one afternoon I was with a group, 4 of us in total, and we found 3 lonely caches. That's GC2HGY8, 2HGXX, 2HGX8. And it had been a year, 4 months, and 2 days before our finds.
Wow.
That's a long period.
Yeah, it is. But it's Edmonton. I think there were only 6 cachers in all of Edmonton.
Maybe a little bit more than that.
Okay. Yeah. So, lonely caches, fun to go after, hard to find. You're just going to have to put in the hard work to determine when they were found last. Unless there's some GSAC macro that we haven't found, being able to determine, when the last find was is a manual effort.
Yeah.
So we didn't find any search tools that is going to give us any help in that.
Yeah, lonelycache.com is about the best tool we could find.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and again, as we said that, or as Beamar said, and we support that, lonelycache.com really focuses on just a few states in the U.S. It's not, it's definitely not global by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, anything else on the topic of lonely caches we want to cover off tonight, guys?
I think that's it for tonight.
All right. Well, folks, we have some great shows coming up, and next week we really want you to give us some feedback in advance, and definitely, if you can, tune in. We have some very special guests coming on the show for a discussion about photography while geocaching. So if you have some experience or tips or advice about photography while geocaching, make sure to send it in to us in advance of the show. If you have a glow that features photography in some way, share that. We'd love to hear about that. So yes, we're very excited to bring in our special guests and share all their amazing photography and geocaching advice. We're really looking forward to that show next week.
Yeah, I know I'm looking forward to it, and a lot of the shows to come. And when we have these guests, we'll talk about them and where to find them. But in the meantime, where can people find you guys? Land Monkey, where would people find information about you?
Well, on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, we're at LandMonkeyGC. On Facebook, Team LandMonkey. And YouTube, it's LandMonkey. Wits End, how about you, buddy?
I am Wits End on Twitter, Facebook, all those places. Just start out at witsend.us website, and you can find links to all those other places. And our friend, Mr. Cop, the bad.
I think it's the bad, or bad cop, the. Anyway, that's not what you search for on the interwebs. Look for Caching NW. That can be on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, wherever you can search social media, look for Caching NW. So tonight, we want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this very episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show, not only through the live Q&A that we have up every show where we get great feedback, but also through our voicemail line. You can call 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, question, or, send us a lonely cache any time of the day or night. Of course, you can always email us, feedback@cachingnw.com, especially with your glows or your milestone caches. Your support helps keep quality shows coming. So if you like this show, please click the PayPal button on the Caching NW website. This show's licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Copyright 2016 by Chris Unkenauer. Thanks, folks.
Night, everybody.
Okay, we are clear of the recording.
All right.
All right.
Guess that needs to get taken out of the show notes.
Okay. We got so much feedback. I love this, guys. I really do like your Q&As, the feedback, all of this. It makes the show so much more interesting. Dora Moore says she has a puzzle cache and a long-ish hike out to the end of a park. I have another cache in the same park, and the puzzle cache gets found less than half as much as the other.
Yeah.
And that's really true. I mean, people look at it and go, it's a puzzle cache. Oh, we'll solve it later.
Well, and if they're not field solvable puzzles, I often cache spontaneously. So if I just stumbled into a park and see a puzzle listed, I sometimes won't even look at it. Sometimes.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe it's just the puzzles. Maybe it's my frame of reference. But I'm having trouble solving puzzles lately.
I've always had trouble solving puzzles.
Limax adds that TTF is also 1,000th to find.
Well, there you go.
But that one's a lot harder to add up in your head than third to find.
Yeah.
Wet Coaster says,
3TF.
go out. 3TF. How about 10? No, anyway. Go out and find caches. Make the lonely cache a thing of the past.
There you go.
I like that.
For just 50 cents a day, you can adopt a lonely cache.
For less than the price of a latte a day.
That's right.
How many lattes are people having that this is the new standard of monetary value? A latte.
Definitely one a day.
Limax says the problem with macros, and then we're talking about GSAC macros, and Project GC is due to the limited access to the logs.
Right, for counting them up.
Right. So geocaching.com, through the API, it's tough to get the logs. Now, I haven't used GSAC in a while, so I may be outdated, but there was a time I used it really to get the logs. When I would go out and find caches, it would be nice to have 15, 20 logs, and you can get 5 at a time. So there might be a macro there to cull through those logs and determine when the last one was found, but I don't know. B Pendragon says, using Project GC, you can probably create a custom filter, but that costs money. And, of course, he also says, don't tempt second one of 3 who will go out to these lonely caches on the long hikes and find it.
Well, I hear there's one in North British Columbia that needs to be found.
Yeah.
Have at it.
Yeah, read the last attempted log on it before you go and try.
IHAM says, Carp Odium sees the day in Dublin. Or maybe sees the day on March 17th. Carp Odium.
Carpe Odium.
Do you want to explain about the fish in your pants?
Well, good.
Explain to everybody about the fish in your pants.
But, just letting people wonder is a whole lot more fun.
Have you been to Walmart recently?
Oh.
In
short, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's just truth is stranger than fiction. And there was a story on the news. I saw it on Twitter today, and I'm going to pull it up and read the tweet because I can't.
You can't make this stuff up.
I can't make this stuff up, and I can't do it justice. If you're familiar with the Miami columnist, journalist Dave Barry, he tweeted today, This happens far too often. Man urinates in Walmart as he puts trout in pants. Now, I showed that to the bad cop, and we had a good chuckle over it, but he didn't realize that the link was to an actual news story in Clarksville, Tennessee. Clarksville, Tennessee man was arrested after he urinated in Walmart while trying to put a package of trout in his trousers, and told a police officer he wasn't concerned because his crimes were only misdemeanors. So,
if you're trying to hide fish in your pants, you have more problems than just misdemeanors.
yeah, I don't always shop at Walmart, but when I do, I put fish in my pants.
Something fishy about that approach.
Oh,
here's a surprise. The article says that he had been consuming alcohol.
what?
I know, it's shocking as that may sound.
The fish?
Fish
was-
alcohol.
He was seen urinating on the floor near the alcohol while trying to put trout in his pants.
Are they sure it wasn't the trout's urine?
You can't prove that. I don't know.
It depends on how much a trout had to drink.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
It's like a fish.
I'm not going to test it. I'm just going to let that one go. At any rate, that was the subtle reference to the carp that made Land Monkey temporarily leave the monkey.
Oh, the things we talk about pre-show.
And post-show now.
Now it's post-show. Well, we had to talk about it post-show because Land Monkey, you were rolling on the floor, literally, I believe.
Very close. Very close. We have a question there in the Q&A from Limax. Do you have an answer to that, Bad Cop?
Is the podcast only available through iTunes now? No, that should not be the case.
So Stitcher, iTunes.
Yeah, no, the website needs to be updated, and I need to get on that.
Okay.
They will be there, and through the RSS feed once again.
Right. We're not trying to put pressure on the Bad Cop. Just answering the question.
B Pendragon says, I used to work at Celestial Body Money. Coffee there. I used to work at Celestial Body Money. Coffee there are people who every day, without fail, would get their drink.
Maybe the
Celestial body,
placed.
star, money, bucks.
Got it.
Sorry, I had to spell that one out for you.
Wow. Sorry, I
Celestial body money. Celestial body money.
I didn't get it.
Okay.
Oh, clever people. Stop doing puzzle caches. I can't get them. Stop doing puzzle Q&As.
The difficulty rating on the Q&A.
Has just gone up.
That was like a 4-star for me. What am I supposed to do?
That's
No
fine.
copyright infringement here.
That's all right. I didn't get it until the Bad Cop got it either. I thought that was actually legitimately the name of the place for it.
There's no copyright infringement here.
All right.
I had to read it a couple of times because it just didn't flow right.
I noticed that.
Wait. Maybe if I say it, no, that didn't come out right either.
Green Mermaid.
Oh. Yeah, how can they do the, what is it, Coffee and Guns? That's the Green
Probably
Mermaid?
They probably can't read that at home there, but on my phone I just looked up and I could click the button there and subscribe to Caching in the Northwest podcast on the Podcast Addict Android app. So definitely available in more places than just iTunes.
Yeah, you podcast addict.
Yeah, me.
Says, however, Limax says, however, not getting the podcast has caused me to tune in live and thus more interaction than you would have had any other way.
So
And
perhaps
very thankful for you being here live.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I think I'm going to call it a night. I am very tired this evening.
Yes,
Long
undoubtedly.
week.
I think I'm going to visit my lonely pillow.
Yeah. Not been seen for a long time.
I missed an M dash. I know what an M dash is.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay, for the guns and money, they're trying to cut down on it.
All right. All right, well, guys, thanks for watching live. Thanks for all the activity in the Q&A. We always appreciate it. It's a lot of
Always
fun.
do.
Yeah.
Good night. See you next week.
Everybody.
Next week.